I think we're live. I'm here with Angry Gay Pope. How you doing, Pope?
Large is life and twice as natural. Happy birthday, everybody. I would protest Scientologists wearing this mask and at big events, and this woman, a bunch of them, but this one woman, she goes, "You wouldn't be so tough if you took that mask off." And I go, "They've sued me 5 times." And if you
do,
look at it, I kind of look like a Guy Fawkes mask anyway.
do Scientologists even know who Guy Fawkes is?
They know what the mask means.
But what do they think it means?
It means that there's protesters outside and they're hiding their identity. But like as Karen Della Carriere said, well, I guess I could. They know who I am, but I could put a mask on and be anonymous, that kind of thing. And some members of OSA have put on masks and infiltrated the group, like back in 2008. So it works all ways. It works every which way. Anybody can do it, including your own enemies.
Oh, if I was OSA, I would be doing that all day long. I mean, it's almost actually, now that you mention it, that's almost I hadn't even thought about that. A big weakness of that strategy is anyone can just throw that mask on and infiltrate the group and cause trouble and set people up and all sorts of stuff. So that had to be going on, right?
Agent provocateurs, yeah. Someone who is sent there by OSA just to screw with people. And they even had signs that said, Joe Blow, no longer anonymous. And they had big signs with his face on it with his real picture. And his father was a lobbyist in Washington, D.C., and they got the guy to stop protesting by pressuring his father. Say, your son is a terrorist.
Wow.
Working in this industry, you're going to make him stop protesting. It's horrible.
Wow. So tell me, how did you come to use the moniker Angry Gay Pope?
Well, they told us very specifically, like the first anonymous thing was in February 2008, and I didn't go to that because I was scared. I was afraid I'd be the only one there. And then when I saw in the paper that a lot of people had done it, I went to the second one, and they said, you got to hide your face, put a hat on so they don't know what your hair looks like, wear baggy clothing, like a baggy sweater, so they don't know whether you're fat or thin or pregnant or not, or they don't know what you look like under there. And so I went to the costume store and I thought, what can I put on my head? And I had three choices. I had a black afro. Well, that would be kind of racist. And then I had a pirate hat. Didn't have anything to do with pirates. And it reminds me of software piracy. I don't want to, look negative. And then there was a Pope hat. And I thought, born in a Catholic orphanage, Pope hat, it's religious, shaped like a fish head. I'll go for it. And I was there with a Pope hat on, and I was angry. I was so angry. I'm still angry. But they all called me Angry Gay Pope. I'm angry, gay,
So it really did come about organically like that. I didn't think, I thought it was just going to be something you made up. So you were there with a Guy Fawkes mask and a Pope hat?
No, I didn't do the Guy Fawkes mask at first because I said to myself, everyone's going to do that. That's just so cliche. So I had a Mardi Gras mask on. It was gold. But then I flipped back and forth. And if you see me in the blue pimp pants with a rainbow shirt, the hat, and the mask, that's when OSA knows I'm on the warpath today. And I'm going to risk arrest because I look so stupid. The cops will be embarrassed to be associated with me. It's street theater, and they don't want to show up anyway. They showed up a little more because Scientology hadn't worn out its welcome with them so much at the Wilcox station. But police don't want to show up because they know they'll be on camera, or it's just stupid, or the cult is weird, and they keep doing this, and the case isn't going to go anywhere anyway, and then I'm going to hassle them. So I haven't worn that one too much. But when I do want to get arrested, I dress like a normal person. Well, I've never met a normal person, but you know what I mean.
So, I have, this is really weird. I have false memories associated with Anonymous. And it's one of many reasons I wanted to talk to you. And
where were you in 2008 when it started?
Well, exactly. This is well, to answer your question, I was already out of the Sea Org and living here in Clearwater, living in Scientology world, just as a technically speaking, a public Scientologist. I wasn't really, doing anything. But here's what I mean by false memories. People ask me all the time, what was it like dealing with Anonymous when you were there? And my knee-jerk answer has always been, yeah, they didn't really have an effect. It didn't have any, we didn't notice.
Mm-hmm.
And because my false memories associated with Anonymous is me being on staff at the Philadelphia org sometime between 96 and 2002.
Oh, no.
I know, right? And then when I started looking up just recently,
I don't even know if the book V for Vendetta had been written by then.
Exactly. And so I was like 2008. What the I was like, then what the hell am I thinking? I'm like, I wasn't even in the orgs when Anonymous was doing its thing. Why do I keep saying it didn't have any effect? Like maybe it was just other protesters. I mean, and I felt a little silly, and I was like, I was like, maybe I'm getting it confused with, maybe I would go by the FH and see a bunch of people outside the FH, and I'm just getting it mixed up with Philadelphia or something.
Fort Harrison, right?
Yeah. So anyway,
I don't know the Clearwater jargon. I know that's the SoCal jargon for these places.
Have you never protested here in Clearwater?
Well, Nasty Nathaniel told me it's a terrible place to protest because it's all locked up, and the superpower building is huge, and the minute you get there, they all run inside or shunt themselves to another area.
That's true, but I meant even back in the day. Like, you've never done a Scientology event or a protest in Clearwater?
I'm self-employed. I haven't had a vacation in 20 years. So
I'm not criticizing. I'm just asking.
I couldn't even afford to do that. And if I put my credit card in the little thing and bought a ticket somewhere at the HGB, alarm would go off, and they have a plan just for me.
Yeah.
Just for me. They have a room here full of videos of me. They have already planned what they're going to do, and I do not want to go there to get bullshit arrested so that I will have to like fly there again to show up in court or something. I mean, maybe now we could do it with, TV.
Totally. But no, I get it. And so anyway, it just occurred to me that, for the last 7 years, whenever someone asks me about Anonymous, I've been giving this particular answer. And I was like, I've been totally full of shit the whole time. I wasn't even in the orgs by the time Anonymous started coming around. So anyway, and then it occurred.
Karen Della Carriere, I did a video with her and Mark Bunker where she said that she was at Big Blue as a public when Anonymous would be out there. And they would be told to just, everybody get in a row. We're going to go march down out of here. And that's how she knew Anonymous was outside.
So did you start participating in the Anonymous protests pretty much right from the beginning?
Yes, there was rumblings of it before February. So a Tom Cruise video came out where he acts stupid, and they took it down, and people got mad. And because Anonymous is anarchical, they love to laugh at other people's misfortune and stupidity. And so they started doing things like you take a piece of black paper, construction paper like children use at school, and you tape them all into a loop, and then you put that into a fax machine and you fax them in the middle of the night, and then it just constantly loses all of its fax ink, and then they come in the morning and there's like no ink and paper all over the floor, so things like that. But I mean, there were also not so good things. There was a guy who walked into the New York Ideal org like nude, covered with Vaseline and toenail clippings and pubic hair. So like, I don't recommend that, and I don't recommend hacking their websites. Why are you gonna? People went to prison for that, and why hack a website nobody's visiting?
It's true.
How can you laugh at it if it's down?
So then, tell me. It's kind of a two-part question, and just start it wherever you'd like. Either how you got involved, or any interest in the subject of Scientology itself, and then how you got involved with the Anonymous stuff.
It started with Time Magazine story, the Cult of Greed and Power, and I read that and I was like really impressed. But there's no Scientology in Cincinnati, where I'm from, and then 60 Minutes, Mike Wallace did a really good story, and the Cult Awareness Network, they had Kendrick Moxon on with another CBS correspondent, and so I just knew about Scientology and it was evil, but I'd never seen it. And like, I worked my ass off to get out of Cincinnati and make it to Hollywood and start working in movies. And I did that successfully. And when I got to Hollywood Boulevard, I was shocked that my new adopted Main Street hometown was full of Scientology. And like, I was afraid to go in. I was just afraid. And then one day I was walking past this place called Help, the Hollywood Education and Literacy Project. And I thought, oh, isn't that nice of these people helping poor Latinos to learn to read? And I go in there, and there's this book, How to Read the Dictionary by L. Ron Hubbard. And I was talking to the girl saying, oh, that's so nice of you doing this in the neighborhood. And then I saw that. I'm like, what's your relationship with Scientology? And she says, well, LRH did write many of our books. And I was shocked that she used this phrase called LRH. I'm like, oh my God, they talk about him so much they don't even use his name. And then I was ready to wet myself and I left. And that was just help. That was just help.
So you were scared. What was it that scared you?
I was just paranoid because they had such a frightening reputation, and I was afraid they'd follow me out. I was afraid if I protested them on my own, I'd be stepped on like a cockroach. So when the anonymous thing started rolling in, and then it got to January, and people said, "Let's have a thing in February," all over the world. And I didn't go to that one, as I said, because I was afraid, but I went to the second one. The second one in March. And this was like no other protest. I mean, I would get up in the morning and I would log into YouTube and I would see people in Australia protesting. And as the world turned, the day would go by and videos would come up from, eventually England and everything. And then last of all was us in SoCal because of the nature of time zones. And it's totally unlike any other protest. I mean, Americans fight with each other, and I hate Trump, but, it's an internal to our country thing. But Scientology is a James Bond villain. It is global. You see a James Bond movie, they're flying all over the world, and you can't just be an American protester or I love Hillary and I hate Trump and I'm going to vote. It's not like that at all. You have to go after them on a global basis. And nobody had done that before until we Anons did. And other kind of protests, there's just never been anything like it. I mean, yes, now Anonymous is screwing with the Russians and stuff like that, but this was sort of different. I mean, that's one country again. Scientology is multi-country, and it was just an amazing experience. It was really fun. People made a lot of friends.
So how did you go from being very afraid of them, not showing your face, to being their primary antagonist, showing your face?
Well, I guess at first we didn't, but then after about 3 months, they were following me, and they caught me going into a friend's house to fix his computer. Well, actually what happened is they followed me from the protest, and I was told when I went to the protest by another fellow anon, she says, they're looking for you today. They really don't like you, because I would bang on windows and everything, so they were really focusing, was not just on me, but on everybody, but especially me that day. And so I was warned. And so I tried to go home without being followed, but they followed me with at least 3 cars. And you don't know that you're being followed when there's 3 cars, because you could be on an empty street for 5 minutes and they're actually just driving around in a circle watching you. They saw me go into this house, and then this writer named Frank Sinello and I went to Best Buy to get him some computer stuff. And I was the one driving, and I fender bended a little bit a car in front of me when I parked. And then we get out of Best Buy. There's these 2 old guys. One of them looks like he has a Band-Aid on his head, and they had a big camera, and they're like, they're saying, you made an illegal turn out there, and then you destroyed that man's bumper. And Frank is like, what is this all about? And I'm like panicking. I'm panicking because it really, when you've never been spied on before or followed, it messes with your head. That's why they do it. And I'm like, you go home and it's like, the toilet's clogged again. Could it be the Scientologists and their weather machine? And you start tinfoil hatting, because that's why they do it. It's just a human nature. And
so is this a thing, like, you did have a little fender bender and they turned it into something bigger? Is that what you're saying?
Threaten me over it. Yeah. They tried to threaten me over it. And then they thought that I lived in that house that they saw me in. So the next day I go over to that house again, and I'm walking up the street on Genesee, and I have this on video. And there's this bald guy sitting in his car, kind of, I'm the scoop ears are up now because I'm being followed. You know, it's better to be too paranoid than not paranoid enough. And he's sitting there, and then when I walked by, he was playing his music and stuff. And then when I walked by, all of a sudden, the music stopped, and I just sort of turned around, and I took out my camera, and I walked up to his door, and I stuck it in, and you can see this on video. And I say, "Hi, what you doing?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm fixing my radio." Well, shouldn't he have said, "Why are you filming me?" It's like everybody knows what's going on, but we don't really say it, you know. And I threatened him or something like that, and then I walked away. But then they found out where I lived. But when I put the video of him on the internet, they left me alone. Ooh,
Interesting.
I cut myself shaving. Okay.
Uh-oh. Okay, so you started showing your face because they basically followed you and
they knew who I was, but it's not about showing my face or not. It's about what intimidates them. Like Tori Magoo said, even if they know what you look like, wear a mask anyway, because it interpolates them. And you know, they do those training routines where you stare at someone's face, you know, until you hallucinate. Isn't that correct?
Sure.
So she said having a mask like that messes with their heads. So, you know, when I'm going to sneak in there and do like go to the Inglewood Ideal Ward and wander around, I don't wear a mask, obviously, would give it away. But when I want to intimidate them, I wear a mask.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes it hard, if not impossible, to like actually deal with the person in front of you if they're wearing a mask. I mean, it's almost like, well, you know, as soon as you stick a camera in someone's face, they don't know what to do. Like, it's like, it's almost like an emotional reaction to object to what's happening here. And unless you're used to that, you don't also realize how weird you look reacting that way. I see the mask as something similar. Putting on a mask is like, what do I do with this? What, it's an immediate, you know, curveball. You don't know how to deal with that.
And a fun side effect is that it defeats facial recognition software. So you can't load in a video from 2008, feed it into the computer and see what we look like. And some people would wear surgical masks and stuff. And so I had a video up. Someone made a comment. Why is everyone using flip phones? Because they saw people with masks on and they thought it was a COVID era. But we're all using 12-year-old phones, and the person watching couldn't understand it. So now the Scientologists are always wearing masks because of COVID, and sometimes we're not. It's just ironic. It is just ironic. They're always in masks now. And the RPFers have a black mask.
You know, but I noticed some Scientology security guards wearing black masks as well.
Yes, I recorded one of them yesterday doing that. Yeah, they have various stuff, and then their masks have their little COVID logo on it. So it's
does it really?
They have a
you know, it's funny. So, you know, I live in Florida, so our restrictions are as lax as anywhere. And I was in Costco the other day, and all of a sudden, so many people with I'm seeing people with masks around me all of a sudden. I'm like, what is going on? And then I hear someone speaking Russian. I'm like, oh, it's the Sea Org members. And then a second later, I go, oh, look, it's Pat Harney. So I took a picture of Pat Harney. I sent it to Mike Rinder. I'm like, look who's at Costco. She's the main PR person here in Clearwater who will go out. If she were a lawyer, you could say she's Clearwater's Rick Moxon, but she's not a lawyer. So she's just
I see.
She's just a person. She's their PR person. You know,
she makes enough money to afford to go to Costco, or she was just lording over these people that were buying.
No, it's weird. Well, we're getting close to the holiday season, right? And so what Flag will do is they will stagger various shopping sessions throughout the couple months leading up to the holiday season, so you can buy. You know, it's funny for you know, the Sea Org members make no money, but they're also good at saving what little money they do make. It's weird.
Well, the funny thing about the masks is we were standing at the HGB building in the entryway, which now if I did it, they'd say I'm trespassing. But we were standing there, and this OSA lady came out and was talking to us, which you can tell it was early in the protest because they would never do that now. But I'm talking to her, and first of all, she did the perfect thing of like, if I get one thing wrong, it's all wrong. And I said, the trade winds is full of blue asbestos. Do you have a comment? And she says, trade winds? We don't have a book called The Trade Winds. We've never had a book called The Trade Winds. You don't know what you're talking about. Everything you say is wrong. And then then the lady next to me with an anonymous mask on said something, and the OSABot lady says, "I'm sorry, I can't understand you. Would you take your mask off?" And I said, "Don't you have operating Thetan powers? Shouldn't you be reading her mind by now?" But the masks cause them endless connections, and it's just fun.
Could you imagine if those types of protests were going on today? I mean, Scientology has dwindled so much. They wouldn't have the resources to do. I mean, they would immediately max out all of their resources trying to dox all of these people. And in this day and age, there's nothing more despicable than doxing someone. So as soon as they started doxing people, not just anonymous, but the entire internet would start like Scientology wouldn't even be able to deal with protests like that today.
Thanks to COVID, they can't even deal with being Scientology. I mean, it's extremely difficult to protest now. All their buildings are empty. I was at the HTB for about 25 minutes last week, just checking them out. Sometimes I just go there and stare at them and nothing happens. And the guards would come out and handle me while I say absolutely nothing. And I was there and I only saw one person in 25 minutes. And that was someone all in black. So I guess they're on the RPF. It's the only person I saw. And this is the HGB. I mean, for decades, people would be running in and out, going back and forth across the street, going down to the subway station to get to Big Blue or back again. Now there's like nothing. I haven't been to Big Blue in forever because they have a restraining order against me, which expires next year. But I've been to like about the only place left to protest is the Welcome Center because it's the only place where they're open. And now they've got an automatic door where they hit the emergency button on the underneath the desk, and the door just goes. I'm afraid.
Wow.
I'm afraid if I got my hand caught in it, it would just chop it off. And so that's kind of a scary thing. Like, what if they're locking the door on? One of my fellow protesters, cameraman Sam, went in there on Guy Fawkes Day while I was causing a ruckus outside to get a personality test. And, with those doors there, I was afraid he would get like locked in. And when he found out there were 200 questions, he said to them, "I'm here on Guy Fawkes Day just to infiltrate you. And when the great leader sees this video, you're all going to be in trouble." And then he ran for the door, and he had his camera in his pocket the entire time recording the sound. And because they made him take his camera off because thanks to people like me, you're not allowed to take pictures in a Scientology place. You're not allowed.
Interesting. Interesting.
Also frightening is the HGB L. Ron Hubbard Life exhibit. You go in the main doors and then they go in the inner doors and they lock them. And the CCHR, the Psychiatric Museum of Death, you go in those doors, and once you're in the museum, they lock that behind you. So it's scary.
That's creepy.
I mean, wow. I'm bigger than these security guards, but they violate California security guard laws because they have mace and handcuffs and a big bright flashlight they can use as to conk you on the head with it. Taser, they have tasers. So it's a good thing they're all pathetically wimpy because it's kind of scary. And
wow.
I know.
Hey, have you seen? Oh, well, you said you haven't been to Big Blue in a while, but I was wondering if Big Roy was still around.
Roy will always be there. He rescued someone, Roy Rodriguez. I like to say that Roy, you have a face that looks like a toilet, not because he actually looks like a toilet, but his face looks like a turd. I'm just free.
So I mean, I knew Roy. I was good friends with his son Sebastian, who's out of the Sea Org. And Roy, Roy was promoted to the rank of officer in the Sea Org for saving someone from a fire or something.
Oh, yeah, he saved 2 people from a fire. And Happy Smurf told me he'll never be RPF or anything like that because he was so heroic. So he's just going to be there forever, ever, ever, ever. I assume.
Yeah. But I mean, Sea Org members don't stay in the Sea Org for fear of being RPF'd. I mean, if anything, sending someone to the RPF might be an impetus for them to leave the Sea Org. Mm-hmm. But Roy, it's funny, his first being such a big guy, his reputation was just being for such a soft-spoken, like sweetheart teddy bear of a man. But honestly, let me ask you this: dealing with him as a security guard, wasn't he always the nicest one, or was he not?
Roy?
Yeah,
he speaks the least. It's not that they're nice, but the ironic thing is, I was showing one person my videos, and he burst out laughing like, the security guard's name, and I'm like, I know all the security guards' names and their families and stuff because they're the only ones you talk to. It's either Karen Powell to a journalist where she hangs up on them, or it's Roy. They're the spokespeople now. And nice? No, I wouldn't call them nice. I mean, they have me arrested on false charges multiple times.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't mean like necessarily nice to you, but as far as like,
Civil or polite or.
as far as and look, I don't have much experience dealing with Scientology security guards from that side of the equation, but I guess what I'm imagining is that perhaps there were some who were specifically trying to evoke a reaction out of you, as opposed to perhaps others who were just there. And I don't know, I've seen Roy pop up in some videos, and it seems to me like he was just kind of there.
He's just there. More in charge there would be kind of Odo Huber, but especially Jason True, who wouldn't even come out anymore when I'm there. He will not deal with me.
Interesting.
But I could hear his voice crackling on the radio, like, Pope's here. And like, they all call me Pope because that's what everyone called me before they knew my name. And
yeah.
If they want to call me DM, hey, fine. I'm the Angry Gay Pope of Anonymous, Don Myers, DM.
Oh, that's right. Your initials are DM.
And just like the Angry Gay Pope of Scientology.
So that means Mark Headley has your initials tattooed on his shoulder.
I guess you could say that. I mean, if he only just used the initials, then he would.
Do you know what I'm talking about? So Mark got DM initialed on his shoulder for Depeche Mode. Depeche Mode. He's the biggest Depeche Mode fan in the world. And then Miscavige.
They made him get that.
Miscavige came up to him on the base one time and was like, so why do you have my tattoos initialed on your shoulder? That's a little weird. And then, of course, now you've got Danny Masterson with the initials, and then Donald Myers. So there you go. Let me go back to Anonymous. How would you describe the actual goal of Anonymous at that time? And do you think it was achieved?
The goal has always been the same: the dismantling of the Church of Scientology in its present form. It's legalese, but it is. The dismantling of the Church of Scientology in its present form. You could go to, have auditing and stuff like that. It just can't be spying on people and charging them too much and all that sort of thing. And that's the official thing. In reality, you know what we really want. We want them gone.
So then why did they stop? Or there must have been a point where things just started to fizzle out, or maybe it was like, this is getting kind of boring. Like if they didn't, go ahead.
About 2.5 years into it. And I mean, at the beginning, I was like, do you really think we can do this once a month? Because I don't know, people will have the impetus or whatever. But they did have the impetus once a month. And then eventually began to peter out. And then I was the only one protesting when the Simon Wiesenthal Center gave Tom Cruise an award for him giving them so much money, which disgusted me. And Spielberg wouldn't even show up for it. But what was going on was, there was some burnout and stuff like that. But first of all, people were fair gamed terribly. Ombre, he got evicted from his home, and he's from Sweden. He was just visiting. Other people have had parties interrupted. People came to their house or place of business saying they're terrorists with fake legal documents. And then the OSA bots would stir up the anonymous sleazeballs, this was the very beginning of people becoming able to be jerks on the internet without meeting you in person. And they criticize you constantly on the internet. Then you see them in person and they're terrified of you, or they run away. And like Mona Mia, we just did a modest protest one time at the Celebrity Center, and she got nasty text messages in the message boards. I hope you die in a fire. And she said, I was in a fire as a child, was almost burned. And like, it brought back flashbacks, and she quit protesting immediately. Because like, it's bad enough with moxing after you, but when your own team are jerks, it's like, and of course, Scientology encouraged all that. And they tried to destroy the Why We Protest website. And now it's just I was thrown off. And Karen Della Carriere, they say horrible things about her, just to try and make people stop going to that website anymore. It didn't do anything but make it more difficult. Scientology still went downhill. But then the outside world kicked in. And in 2008, we were just starting to protest. And that was exactly when the economy collapsed because of the real estate bubble. So, people didn't have the money to take a day off or to drive here from San Diego, paying for the gas and all that stuff. It just, the middle class took a real hit there. And that was another thing that did it. So by like early 2010, the people who said I was doing it all wrong weren't doing it at all. Interesting. So, but I mean, I've been fixing my lawyer's computer for 12 years now. So, you make a lot of friends, and those friendships are still there. So I've been fixing Granberry's computer for like over a decade, and do it for free if I have to. So we made a lot of progress, and then that gave the old guard of the protesters like Tori Magoo that were exhausted. It gave them new energy, and eventually led to things like the Leah Remini show, because they're so weakened that they just couldn't go after their exes like they used to.
It's true. Very true. I kind of, so my, I guess what I've been doing on this channel, I guess for about 7 years.
What I like that you do is you ran for office, or you broke that story with the horrible bunks the other day. You're actually doing something. People like Chris Shelton just sit there talking, and it's like, you're not going to accomplish much.
Well, I shouldn't. I mean, Chris is a friend of mine. So
that's all I'll say. That's all I will say.
But I guess what I was going to say there is that I guess it's never occurred to me to go and protest outside of an org, for example. And that's what I'm about to explain, is that for me, when I was in Scientology, I guess it wasn't Anonymous who was ever protesting outside the orgs, but every now and then there'd be something.
I remember, like the Mad Picket with Mark Bunker, where they stuck gum on his lens.
Yeah. No, I've seen all sorts of that kind of footage, but remember, I would have been like in Philly, where kind of an outpost, not LA, not Clearwater. For me, when I was on the inside, I don't remember any external activity particularly having any impact on me. However, there was a 2-year period from 1998 to 2000 when I had left staff and I was living in Hollywood and just living a life, not really having anything to do with Scientology for 2 years. There was an internet cafe on the corner of Hollywood and Vine called Cyber Java, and I worked there. And that was my introduction to the internet. And during that period of time, I still considered myself a Scientologist during this time. I just didn't have anything to do with Scientology. I stumbled into some of the websites, whether it was Operation Clambake or whatever it was. I remember the Clambake thing because I was like, I didn't get the joke, right? The stuff that I saw, to me, was so off-putting that it enabled, well, the way things were being discussed and described was so insulting, derogatory, I'll say exaggerated, but that's subjective. How do I know if it was exaggerated? But I'm just telling you what was going through my head. So derogatory. It was such a turnoff that it allowed my Scientology programming to immediately kick in and go, oh yeah, it's just a bunch of SPs spreading a bunch of lies. Now look, in retrospect, a lot of the stuff that I thought was hyperbole and exaggeration was actually true. It was just so beyond what I could conceive that right? But how it was being discussed was so off-putting to me. It allowed the Scientology programming to kick in.
They're treating you like you're a moron, or any Scientologist must be stupid or brainwashed or
exactly. Yes, or even
that's more of that anarchical stuff that Anonymous was doing, because they kicked in because they wanted to make fun of Tom Cruise and the video got taken down.
Right.
So it's been a problem. But the main thing people seem to have with me is that they think I'm trying to save somebody. I mean, for the vast amount of time, there was nothing you could do for them. Dial 1-866-XC-org or something. It didn't work. It had hung up on that. That didn't work for a long time until the Aftermath Foundation, which I scream and yell about, and they all look like they're ignoring me when they're listening to every word. Until the Aftermath Foundation, I have only 2 goals. I want this Scientologist to get into trouble so that they will be abused and they will either blow or die, which is a mean thing to say, because I know, like, folks have their children in there, and yeah, I want your children to die. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I think, I've criticized you, and not directly. And honestly, that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you face to face, because so much gets lost when you're typing words on the internets. Like when I saw the video of you, I'm going to switch gears. This is not a criticism. At one of the Scientology events, and you had a sign, and it was like a birthday event. I don't remember. It was it had to be a couple years ago because Scientology hasn't done an event in a couple years.
Yeah,
And you were like, if you want to blow the aftermath, wait, what?
Was it the LRH birthday party? Yeah, yeah.
Sounds right.
Yeah, yeah.
You're like, if you want to blow, the Aftermath Foundation can help. And you were screaming at these guys. And I was like, God damn, I love that. I was like, you know what? I was like, there's no one else who's going to go right into the faces of 1,000 Sea Org members and Scientologists with an Aftermath Foundation sign and just, you can blow and the Aftermath Foundation can help. Now, I'm mentioning that because I remember when I saw that, I was like, this was before I was posting videos as easily and frequently as I am now. And I was like, you know, I just want to put up a video that says, you know, I don't usually like how Angry Gay Pope does what he does because and yet he's got giant balls of steel to go and do something that is productive no matter how you do it, letting these people know that the Aftermath Foundation exists and that if they want to blow, there is help.
The internet has commented on the size of my testicles since 2008. It's like, you have balls of steel, you have huge balls. But yeah, the Aftermath Foundation signs are by far the most like. I never badmouth LRH except on his birthday. I never badmouth LRH. That's like, it's like, you know, they have enough trouble dealing with the fact that Miscavige is a mess. So like, let's not push it. They're kind of like heroin addicts, and I just want them to be on like morphine instead, something not as bad.
Right.
The Aftermath Foundation is much better than yakking about Xenu or this or that. I mean, like the missing persons and the Aftermath Foundation is what gets them every time. Otherwise, if I'm talking about Xenu, it's like I'm criticizing my church, the Catholics, because Jesus's mother couldn't have been a virgin. Well, who cares? They're raping little children. What's more important, a virgin story or that kid got raped? You know,
right? I'll tell you what. Have you ever, you know, the Aftermath Foundation sends out for free professionally printed cards that have little slogans on them, kind of like, if you want to leave, the Aftermath Foundation can help. And if you keep doing things where you're going to different organizations or the test center or the welcome center or whatever, you could either like literally hand these guards the cards or just throw them in the door and they would have to see them and pick them up and anything like that.
They have to see them. Yeah, we did something like that once, I think. And sometimes we'll leave our Xenu signs behind when the sign is getting old.
Yeah.
But they'll steal them. They will. If I leave my sign alone, a guard will grab it and crush it.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. So what I was saying about like the Operation Clambake stuff is that one of the reasons I even started my channel, but particularly the reason I talk about Scientology issues the way that I do is a direct response to my own experience of I could have left Scientology in 1998 if the resource I was looking at was credible and believable to me.
The whole system is designed to prevent you from doing that. It reminds me of one of those carnivorous plants where when the deeper into the plant the ant crawls, the more the backward pointing hairs keep it from getting out until eventually it's just digested. Yeah, with that, I can see why you wouldn't want to do what I do, because you've got like lots of emotional baggage from being in those organizations or being protested or something like that. But it may take you don't ever have to do it, but you've already been, you know, doing protests and stuff. But how about if you came here and you wandered into the Inglewood Ideal Org and acted dumb, like, ooh, what's going on? What's this?
No, but here's what I mean. Like Scientologists who do stumble on the internet, and we know that they do. Well, first of all, we get
like David Miscavige's father when he gave him an unlocked tablet.
Right. If they stumble onto the internet and instead of seeing something that is incredibly derogatory and insulting to them, it talks about the subject in a way that they go, oh shit, not only does this person know what they're talking about, he's actually being really, really fair. Then it doesn't allow their programming to kick in.
Right, exactly. But once again, I don't care if their programming kicks in. I want them RPF. But if you want that kind of stuff, I did 83 videos with Karen Della Carriere sitting down talking about everything. I mean, I would go home and cry because of editing a video called "Prisoner of a Scientology Medical Waste Incinerator," and you know, it's just. Eventually, I had to stop simply because it just got too debilitating for me. But if you want any of those kind of sitting down talking head videos, Karen Della Carriere has 83 of mine, just mine alone, and plenty others she's done with others. So saying that, well, he's a jerk, or it's the same thing like Chris Shelton has done it, where just like the lady with the trade wins, free wins, if I do one thing wrong, it's all wrong. And that video you saw of me shouting until I almost threw up about the Aftermath Foundation, it won't matter. Mike Rinder and Chris Shelton, they just don't care. They just don't care.
Don't care about what?
Anything I do. They think it's
pointless.
It's counterproductive because you're not helping them leave.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I mean, look, I could say the same thing. I mean, honestly, and it is something I've said when I've been asked about you. I have said in some of my videos, yeah, I don't like how he does what he does, but I'm glad he does something, because at least it's something. And yet,
when I play bad cop, it distracts them from doing something.
But let me ask you about it, because from what you just said, if I heard you correctly, you're saying that your goal, like what you're trying to do by showing up and doing what you do, you're saying is not the same as my goal. So how would you describe your goal then? What is it?
Well, at the end of it, you promote the Aftermath Foundation, but you don't badmouth LRH, and you try and get Scientologists in trouble and push their buttons, get something interesting on camera that's educational, entertaining, and interbulating.
How would it get them in trouble, though?
Because the great leader sees the videos, and he loves to have excuses to, like anti-shirtless lady Lisa Uvizel. She was at the HGB, and she ended up getting a restraining order against me. And the first time we went in, it was a bogus thing. You know, all I did was talk to her on the street, and the judge gave her the restraining order just because they were throwing mud at the wall with me legally. And she showed up in court looking horrible. I mean, she looked like, dark circles under her eyes, lost weight. She wasn't the perky girl you saw in the video. And I thought, wow, I have the power to dick these people over. So it's basically DM versus TM, you know, and they get into trouble like that. And the handler.
So you're saying if they don't handle it correctly, you're trying to throw enough at them that they mishandle you in a way that gets them in trouble.
Correct. And I'll also do things like I'm doing now. I put up one video from the Guy Fawkes Day thing the other day, but I'm not going to put up the other videos until after 2 p.m. next Thursday. Why is that important?
Until after 2 p.m. Thursday. Why would you wait until after? I thought you'd want to do it before.
No, after 2 p.m. they have put in their stats for the week, and they have written all about, you know, whatever they experienced with me. And if that doesn't coincide with what I put up, they're going.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So I'm
okay.
Forcing them. I'm forcing them to get another attempt at getting hurt because maybe they didn't add a detail that was important that I did say that day or something like that. And Miscavige watches my videos, and he loves to have excuses to hurt people. So I just give.
So I have to imagine, well, you did describe, you said they got a restraining order on you. How else has Scientology, how else have you tangled with Scientology legally?
There have been 7, not lawsuits, but lawsuit clusters, I guess you'd call it. And one time my lawyer put a couple of them into like a cult class action. I mean, they will throw all sorts of silly charges at me just for talking loud or whatever, or the most minor of civil disobedience. You know, I'm never going to hit anyone or anything like that, but they had me for, there was one TRO for talking to a guard that got thrown out. Then there was the TRO with the anti-shirtless lady that stood for 3 years. And then there was the Delphi Academy. Well, actually on Guy Fawkes Day, one time I was arrested just for talking to her because the restraining order had expired. But once they arrested me for just talking to someone, I just lost. It's like the movie V for Vendetta when she loses all of her fear of dying. And that's when you really upset people. So I'm not afraid anymore. So they just made it worse for themselves by arresting me without cause. Now I'll give you a cause.
Have they successfully had you prosecuted for anything?
Oh, lots of things. Well, I mean, restraining orders.
I don't know legally if where a restraining order fits into misdemeanor prosecution. Like, is that considered a prosecution? I didn't think so.
I'm not sure. You'd have to ask my lawyer, Graham Berry, who.
I mean, other than them getting restraining orders on you, though, have they had you arrested and convicted of something?
I think I've been convicted. Yes, talking to you later. But what happens is, I'll either threaten to go to court or I'll drag it out, and most of the charges are bogus anyway. One time we were having a debate over what the restraining order was for technical reasons, and Graham and I went downtown to the misdemeanor center where this cop was talking to us, this Asian lady, and she says, "Well, let me pull up your file," and she pulls up my entire legal history. And she's going, "Oh boy, page down, page down, page down, page down, page down." She was, "You've got a lot." And I said, "A lot of those charges were thrown out. Is that like everything, or is that just?" "Oh no, this is everything, sir." So yeah, they've. But the thing is, I like the restraining orders because it forces, like, anti-shirtless lady, and Catherine Frazier and Ken Long were all at the opening of the Scientology Media Center, their Sunset Boulevard studio. And they were all right there at the VIP entrance because they planned ahead knowing I'd go for that. And from across the street. And so they had all the people who had restraining orders against me before lined up right in front of me. It's like, you can't miss it.
So that doesn't help you though, right? You said you love them.
The restraining orders allow me to control them and make them show up for stuff. So then I can say, they're getting in my way on purpose to prevent me from protesting. So without a restraining, when I had a restraining order against me from Ken Long, when I went to the Christmas parade, all the cops came out and were uncomfortable, said, "Fred, you're going to have to leave." 10 cops looking at me. If I don't have a restraining order against me when I go to that Christmas parade, the cops just ignore me. So it's strangely, it gives me an odd sort of power.
Interesting. Well, what else? I mean, so Anonymous is still a thing. I mean, they still exist, but they don't really do anything about Scientology anymore. You think they just got bored?
Well, Anonymous is as Anonymous does. Anonymous is as Anonymous was. It's different people. They don't have people would say to me, "You are giving Anonymous a bad reputation." I'm like, it's impossible for Anonymous to have a reputation because it's just individual persons. And the New York Times did a story with Guy Fawkes masks all over the world in places that were like Syria and Africa and China, people protesting with Guy Fawkes masks on, in part to hide their faces from facial recognition. So it continues to happen. Like, look at they're attacking Russia now, doxing them, taking over their websites. And the U.S. government just loves it, I'm sure. You're not going to tell Anonymous what to do.
So people in Anonymous were saying that you were giving Anonymous a bad reputation for being so confrontational?
Yes. But when they went confrontational, I mean, there was a murder at the Celebrity Center where this guy came in with a sword, and we called him Epic Sword Guy. He came in with a sword, and they shot him right away. Well, Mona Mia and I went out there that night and just interviewed the local news crews. I screamed and yelled, and Moxon came out, and we talked to the guards, and then I covered the story, and then we went home. The next day, you would think we had shot the president. Like, don't you have any respect for that man dying? And well, weren't the press there already? I mean, it's just these people love to get upset and people don't like altruistic colleagues like the teacher's pet. They don't like that. And if people join Anonymous because they want to be the hero, and all they do is stand there. I mean, sometimes they wouldn't even bring signs at the end of it. They just stand there and watch me run back and forth. People might want to be the hero of Anonymous, but when some other people like Anon Orange and I do something they didn't, they get very jealous and angry, and it threatens their sense of ego or importance. So they would call us like, "Oh, the Wonder Twins are at it again because they went to Twin Peaks and risked arrest." Well, then you do that, jerk.
I actually think doing things like going to the CST bases in Twin Peaks. I think that's amazing. I think that's like, I mean, that's interesting for many reasons. Have you gone to only one CST base or more than one?
I've been to Twin Peaks and I've been to Gold Base, but I haven't been to like Trementina in Arizona or those other things. The other ones are very hard to get to, and they've been flown over with drones, and there's not much interesting there. I mean, it's great to see their property and the entrances to their vaults, but there's like maybe one person there or something like that, and you'd have to walk onto their property for 15 minutes just to get to a building. Twin Peaks is extremely vulnerable, and you can park up the hill at the Christian Center, walk down there, and you're on their property without them even knowing it.
You know, and the other type of
people have been RPF'd for us doing that also. Anon Orange went back a week later when we had protested there, and they were buying all of this plantings to try and cover up the fences with plants, and they're now covered with thorns and spikes. Even if 60 Minutes went there now, you wouldn't see what we saw because they grew all these plants. And that woman, I forget her name, but she came out and told Anon Orange to go away, and she was wearing all black. So that tells me she had been RPF'd. Jane McNair and some of the others. I was told that they will almost certainly be RPF'd for the first time that we went there. One of the exes said that there's never been anything like this happen in CST ever, and it's going to pop their stupid little bubble of superiority.
I got to tell you, if there was like, you know, if Anonymous was like more of an organized thing and I could give them some advice, oh boy. Doing what Anonymous did, what Anonymous did back in 2008, if they did that again, but focused on CST bases, that would be a very big deal.
Yeah. One of the things is like the lady who was my psychiatrist in jail, she gave me the sanity test. Are you sane? Yeah. She said, you know, you really should watch it. You're being too Jesus-y. Why are you getting yourself arrested to take down a religion that's dying anyway? And that was another thing that, like, well, it's dying anyway.
Oh, I don't want anyone to do anything that would get them arrested. I want them to do more like First Amendment auditor type stuff of like, you know, more than anyone, Scientology can't stand the fact that someone might stick a video camera in their face on public property.
Exactly. But one of the problems that Anonymous died out is like part of it was that, you know, it's going to die anyway. And people say to me, why do you videotape them so much? They're like going to go extinct. And I said, that's like saying, why record mountain gorillas? They're going to go extinct anyway. Well, isn't that more of a reason to do it? Because like I said, if 60 Minutes went to Twin Peaks now, they would just see rose bushes and thorns.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. Well, very interesting. What else? So is there anyone else? So there's you, there's Nathaniel. Who else is still doing any sort of, I'm characterizing it as First Amendment auditor type things. Just the idea of recording. I mean, Nathaniel does more of the First Amendment auditor type stuff. You wouldn't describe what you do as that, right?
No. And in fact, at first when he said, oh, I'm not a Scientologist, I'm an auditor, I went, what? What are you? Because I'm very suspicious by nature, because they've, you know, is someone going to set me up? Is this guy really an agent of theirs? We said, oh, I'm an auditor. Like, oh, what? Yeah, Anon Orange doesn't do it anymore. Anon Sparrow doesn't do it anymore. Smurf is dead. And sometimes I'll see videos online from people who just kind of wander around Big Blue, but it's very amateurish and kind of self-absorbed and goes on and on and on. It's not edited.
I'll tell you, if I find anyone out there putting up content, First Amendment auditor type content at CST bases, I will do everything in my power to blow those videos up and get them as big an audience as possible. Because I don't know, CST is one of those things. It's like Scientology just doesn't want anyone to know about that. Yeah. And Shelley Miscavige, to the best of our knowledge, is at the CST base in Skycrest or wherever. It's got a few different names. There's no reason for people to stay away from that place.
The neighbors tell their children about Gold Base. People go in, but they don't go out. Stay away from that place. Kind of like people in New Jersey made up the Jersey Devil. Don't go out in the swamps, kids. The Jersey Devil will get you. Well, in reality, there's snakes and quicksand and stuff. There's no Jersey Devil, but it functions the same way. And in Twin Peaks, the rumor is that L. Ron Hubbard's frozen head is in a vault there, like Walt Disney. Like You know those rumors that Walt Disney's been frozen.
I think he really was, though, wasn't he? I think he really was.
No, I'm a Disney animated. Anyway, Roy's the good one. Walt's the evil one.
So hey, what are the chances? What are the chances we can scare up some people to go do some videos at CST bases? There's like 3 or more of them. We got to find some of these. Even there's got to be some new CST bases we don't even know about.
I don't know, but Twin Peaks is the most beautiful and the most striking. And when we went there, the first place we saw was these little pink. If you saw that, there's a trailer I have called the Shelley Miscavige Project. That's sort of based on the Blair Witch Project, and it's all black and white when we're going there. But there were these pink ribbons, rubber ribbons, stuck to the ultra barrier, like someone had come there, missing her or something like that. It was very eerie. But Twin Peaks is just gorgeous, and you're up really high, and you can get right up to on the easement. The easement is so close that you can just go up to the fences and stuff. And then they'll call the police, and then we'll just like annoy the police.
Yeah. See, I'm gonna keep harping on this point because, especially if one of the reasons why something like this doesn't get done is that people don't have the time and the money to do it. If someone had a YouTube channel, just look at some of these First Amendment auditor YouTube channels. They get tons of views. Google AdSense would generate plenty of revenue to make this activity, pay for itself. If somebody,
now you're getting into a slippery slope where like they're irritating people to get advertising revenue. So that's why I don't have ads. As opposed
to what? Irritating them for no reason at all?
No, I mean like suppose I was auditing you, and I mean I'm not a First Amendment auditor, I don't know how it works, but suppose I was auditing you and I said you're a jerk just to upset you on the camera. But what if I slapped you? And then I'd get more ad revenue from views. But maybe they'd say to YouTube, oh, he's violent. So
well, yeah, I mean the problem in that example is a crime was committed. You got to do it without committing a crime.
Right.
So like honestly, some of my favorite YouTube channels I just binge watch is some of these First Amendment auditor channels. There's a guy who just straps a camera to his head and walks around city halls. And it's amazing how people will just come out of everywhere to tell this, you can't film here, you can't film here. And he very calmly, the guy's smart, he's calm, and he never goes alone, right? So he always has someone filming him, even though he's got 3 cameras on his own person. And his videos get hundreds of thousands of views. If someone could do it the right way without, I'm not even going to say without getting arrested, because Scientology will try to get you arrested, but do it the right way where no matter what trouble they get into, they can get out of it because the law is on their side and it's being recorded from 6 different angles. It would fund itself.
Arrested me. I mean, it can take days to get out of the criminal justice system because it's broken and you can barely even call your lawyer. The system is so broken. And if
understand.
If Monday's a holiday and I got arrested on Friday afternoon, I have to sit through the entire weekend and Monday to get to see a judge maybe on Tuesday. So just the fact that they arrest you, even though the charges won't stick, they're hoping you'll get beaten in prison or get a skin infection.
Totally.
Stuff like
now,
that.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to twist your arm to do this. I'm saying anybody, anybody who's listening.
Yes.
Look up anyone who's listening, look up these First Amendment auditor channels. Look how many views they get. And imagine how much interest a channel would get that was dedicated to doing that, specifically at Scientology properties, specifically at the CST bases, specifically where Shelley is. It could blow up.
Yeah, but you can't do that every week. It will get boring. I kind of don't really get the First Amendment auditor thing. Standing outside a library, pointing a camera at it or whatever.
I've become addicted to it, and I've started to understand it better. I used to.
I prefer more conflict.
I know, but that's
television loves conflict.
But I'll tell you, the conflict creates itself. I mean, in the case of the city hall, you have these bureaucrats who just don't understand that they work for the public, and they think they can order you.
They only know how to say no. That kind of people, right?
Yeah. And I'm just throwing it out there because I truly believe that if someone, well, first of all, it's got to be done by someone who wants to do it as a passion, but they don't have to sacrifice or be a martyr. This thing would pay well. Like, it's not like they have to be a martyr for it, and Google does you the favor of putting ads on your videos. You know, you don't have to do Patreon. You don't have to do these programs.
Yeah, I've had ads on other channels that I've done, and I originally had ads, I think, on mine. But after my channel was taken down like 3 different times, I won't even go there. Just like, I mean, they DDoS attacked my the day that the Scientology network premiered was L. Ron Hubbard's birthday, March 13th, 2018. That was the exact minute that my website got DDoS attacked. And so the internet has computers that are infected with viruses that are controlled by ne'er-do-wells, and they attack your website, and all these computers try to go to it at once. I was getting like 8 billion hits a week, 8 billion. And
wow.
At the exact same time, they took down my YouTube channel over bogus crap, because they had given so much money to YouTube to advertise their network, even though no one was going to watch it, that like I had one called Big Breast Stress Test, because like all you see are the woman's breasts because the camera's hanging around it. There's no nudity or anything. But they were really on the kick of the Me Too movement and got to protect the rights of women, kind of like how they're going after Paul Haggis with potential bullshit.
Yeah.
So I had 3 videos taken down because of, quote, anti-women or sexual things, obscenity, and it's just nonsense.
It's true. I mean, look, even my videos, because I know what YouTube will try to censor and demonetize, I very much color within the lines. Half my videos get demonetized, and then I'll appeal it. 48 hours later, YouTube goes, "Oh, you're right. That was fine." I'm like, yeah, 48 hours and 100,000 views later, thanks for nothing. Right. So don't get me wrong. It's always going to be a little bit of a minefield, but I'm just telling you, if someone would do this the right way, it would be a self-funding operation. Right. And I would do everything in my power to help those videos blow up. I am endlessly fascinated by the CST bases, and I was in Scientology. I imagine people who are not in them are even more fascinated by them. They're fascinating.
They show a little of it in their Scientology network promos or whatever.
I know. I did a little video about it, but I want to do more. And I mean, come on.
That was a big deal for them, I'm sure, because they don't want to talk about it. It's a rather secret thing. CST,
it's true.
CST is responsible for caring for LRH TAC.
Yeah. Do you know what I learned recently that never occurred to me is that I always thought of CST, the project of CST and the preservation of the tech, as being like sort of a never-ending process. And I was speaking to Dylan Gill about it, and he sort of pointed out to me that, it's done, right? Like, it's not an ongoing process. There's only so much tech to preserve, and there's only so many vaults. You don't have to make 100 copies. You make like 5 copies and you're done.
Well,
I was like, that didn't occur to me.
Well, the more money they spend on that, I believe LRH left them 80 million when he died. The more money they spend on that, they could just tell the IRS that we are, spending this money on stuff that's tax deductible.
Yeah. Well, it's also interesting that Scientology, I think, continues to raise money for preservation of the tech, even though it's done. Dunzos. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we've been going for an hour now. Why don't we keep it at this so I can put little chapter breaks and have it be manageable? And let's think of some other fun things to discuss. What's that?
Ultra barrier. What's it like to be on the very edge of gold base, looking at their ultra barrier? It's very frightening.
Yeah. Like, so wait, so what is the name of your channel Angry Gay Pope, or does it have a different name?
The original was Angry Gay Pope, but that was 3 channels ago. If you just go to YouTube and search Angry Gay Pope, it'll come up.
Okay, cool. All right, well, everyone check it out. And
thanks for having me.
I hope I get some. If you hear of anyone who wants to do this a CST First Amendment auditor stuff, put them in touch with me, and I'll have to chat with them about it, give them some advice or anything like that.
Okay, I'll send you a link to the one where we saw the pink ribbons.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye.